The land around Black Hollow was dry and sun-hardened, the kind of earth that cracked open like old leather under the weight of summer heat. There was a fence, splintered, crooked, but standing, that marked the end of Elias Boon's claim and the beginning of nowhere. He had built it with his own hands 15 years ago, back when his back was straighter and his soul was still sore from war and loss. These days, he didn't build much of anything, just kept to the rhythms, feed the horse, tend the well, patch the roof if the wind got mean enough. He spotted her near sundown. She didn't come through the gate or call out. She crawled, quiet and low like a starving coyote, toward the waste pile behind the barn. She was little more than bones in a coat too big for her frame, sleeves flapping past her wrists. Her hair hung in matted clumps. Elias watched from the porch, his rifle leaning against the post, a tin cup of coffee cooling in his hand. She didn't see him. She dug with both hands, peeling back canvas scraps, broken tin, a rusted boot. When she found something wrapped in cloth, maybe bread too moldy to feed the chickens, she cradled it like treasure. She didn't eat it, just held it, staring out at the empty land like she'd forgotten where she was. "You hungry?" His voice came flat, dry as the wind. She jolted upright and scrambled back, fists clenched, as if ready to run or fight. Her eyes locked on the rifle before they found his face. "I ain't got nothing worth stealing," she rasped. "Didn't say you did." He stood slowly, his knees protesting. "There's stew on the stove. You can come up and eat or keep digging through rot. Your choice." She didn't move, just stared. He turned and walked back inside, leaving the door open behind him. Minutes passed before her shadow darkened the doorway. She didn't cross the threshold at first, just lingered like a ghost waiting to be invited. Then she stepped in. The light from the stove flickered against the lines of her face, showing her younger than she looked at first. No more than 25, maybe less. Dirt clung to her like a second skin. He ladled the stew into a cracked bowl and set it on the table without ceremony. She didn't thank him. She just ate, fast but not sloppy, like someone who knew food could vanish if you took your eyes off it. Elias poured her water, sat across from her without speaking. Only after the bowl was scraped clean did she lean back, eyes flicking toward the door. "I can go," she said. "You could," he said, "but you look like you'll drop dead before you make it to the next fence line. What's it matter to you?" He stared at her, long enough that she looked away. Then he asked, simple as a breath, "Will you stay?" She blinked, stunned. "I ain't a wife," she said. "Didn't ask for one. I ain't a servant neither. You dig through trash like you don't care what you are." Silence filled the room. She clenched her jaw and stood. For a moment, it seemed she'd walk right out, pride dragging her along. But her legs buckled just slightly, and she grabbed the table for balance. He pointed toward the barn. "There's hay in the loft. A blanket. It's yours tonight." She hesitated again, then nodded once and walked out into the dusk without another word. Elias stood at the window, watching her silhouette climb into the shadows above the barn. The fence creaked in the wind. The moon rose cold and pale over the desert. That night, he didn't sleep much. His mind wandered where he didn't let it go often. Old battles, worse memories. He thought about the way her hands shook, the way she hadn't asked for anything, not even when it was clear she needed everything. He hadn't heard her name. He hadn't asked. Didn't want to know more than he could carry. The next morning, she was already outside when he stepped off the porch. She had drawn water and was feeding the chickens. Her sleeves were rolled up. The sun lit the bruises along her arms. He said nothing. She said less. 3 days passed. She didn't speak much, but she worked, patching the coop, hauling feed, sweeping out the shed. At night, she slept in the loft. Elias began leaving small things where she could find them. An old pair of boots, a clean shirt, a brush missing a few teeth. She took them without comment. It was on the 5th day that she spoke again. He was oiling the hinges on the back gate when she stepped up behind him. "They're looking for me." He didn't turn around. "Who?" "Bleeding Rock Boys." He froze. The name was a bitter wind. "They run out of Greystone." "They ran through Greystone, burned half the town, took what they wanted, left the rest in the dirt." Her voice was flat. My husband tried to stop them. You run. I killed one, she said. Then I ran. Elias looked at her then. Really looked. You got a name? Ruth. He nodded once and went back to work on the gate. You know they'll follow the trail. I know. I'm no lawman. I didn't come for a savior. He leaned on the fence post, watching the horizon. You got blood on your hands, Ruth. Only what they spilled first. He nodded again, slower this time. That night, as she cleaned the kitchen for the first time, Ruth found a drawer that stuck when she pulled. She tugged harder, and it came free. Inside was a worn leather pouch and a single object inside. A badge, 5-pointed, tarnished but still proud. Not a sheriff's star. A Texas Ranger's. She stared at it for a long while before sliding the drawer shut. The wind howled that night, pushing hard against the windows. Out in the desert, something moved, distant, but not distant enough. Ruth climbed back into the loft and lay still beneath the blanket. Downstairs, Elias stared into the dark, a rifle across his lap, the badge on the table beside a cup of coffee gone cold. The town of Dry Basin sat like a blister in the dust, sunburned and twitchy. On the 7th day after Ruth had come to Black Hollow, the whispers arrived like sickness on the wind. Bleeding Rock boys were riding south. In the saloon, men drank faster, eyes shifting to the windows. At the general store, shelves were stripped of bullets before bread. The sheriff doubled the night patrol, but it was more performance than protection. Everyone knew when the Bleeding Rock boys came, they didn't knock. They left ash and bone. By the time word reached Elias Boon, he was splitting fence rails. Ruth stood nearby, holding the hammer without being asked. She worked with that same silence she carried like a shield, but something in her hand stilled when the rider appeared. A dust-covered boy no older than 16, breathing hard, spitting up road grit. They're coming, the boy gasped. 10, maybe more. Left Stampede Ridge 2 nights ago. Sheriff says they're heading this way. Elias nodded, dismissed the boy with a coin and a canteen. The boy rode off like fire was behind him. Ruth leaned on the post, sweat slicking her neck. They're still following me. They don't leave threads loose, Elias said. She looked at him, hard and hollow. I should go. They'd find you easier on the move. Then maybe I should stop running. He studied her for a long moment, then handed her a rag. Then you'd better learn to shoot straighter. That evening, as the sky faded into a bruised purple, Elias took her to the ridge behind the barn. He set up bottles, spaced and staggered. Ruth's fingers trembled at first, but her eyes stayed cold, steady. She missed the first shot. The second cracked a glass neck clean. By the 10th, she was breathing slower, as if memory itself had stepped aside to make room for something sharper. You ever kill before Greystone? He asked. She reloaded without answering. Elias knew better than to push. Instead, he watched the way she stood, the way she carried weight, not just in her arms, but deep in her chest, like sorrow pressed into her bones. Later, back in the house, he cleaned his second rifle and left it on the kitchen table. She noticed, but didn't speak. Actions between them had become their own language. 2 nights later, Sheriff Braith rode up with a lantern swinging from his saddle. He was a lean man, all angles and nerves, his deputy trailing behind like a shadow unsure of its shape. You know why I'm here, Braith said after Elias let him in. You want help. I need it. The sheriff's eyes flicked toward Ruth, then back. They hit Dust Creek. 6 dead. 3 missing. That gang's a disease, Elias. You've got the cure. Or used to. Elias poured 2 cups of coffee. Set one down. I don't wear that badge anymore. I ain't asking for the badge. I'm asking for your fire. You can still shoot. Still think clearer than half this county. Not my fight. Then whose is it? Ruth's voice cut through the room. She stepped out from the corner, sleeves rolled, hands raw from hauling wood. They're after me, but they'll hurt everyone between here and Mexico to get what they want. You gonna let that happen? Braith looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Elias stood slowly. You think one old man and a girl can stop them? No, Braith said, but they'll run if they lose enough blood. Elias didn't reply. Braith left the coffee untouched and rode off with the night, howling behind him. For hours after, Elias said nothing. He sat at the table, gaze fixed on the flame in the stove. Ruth washed dishes with rough motions, water sloshing. When the silence finally broke, it came quiet. "I saw my husband die," Ruth said, not looking up. They rode and laughing. One held me down while the others beat him. Said they wanted to teach the brave man what his woman was worth. When I got free, I put a pitchfork through the nearest one and ran. I've been running ever since. Elias looked at her, not with pity, never pity, but with the eyes of a man who recognized the shape of pain. "I buried my wife and boy same year I built that fence," he said. "They were caught between a bounty I was chasing and the bastard he ran with. I promised myself I'd never pick up a gun again unless it was for me." "You kept that promise?" "Until now." She didn't smile, just nodded once and went back to scrubbing. The next morning, they prepared the ranch like it was a battleground. Elias dug out trenches he hadn't touched in years, hidden between rocks and brush. Ruth helped lay traps, pits with sharpened stakes, wires tied to old tin pans. Anything to slow them down. He taught her how to reload faster, how to check for wind, how to shoot from cover. She caught on like fire to tinder. Her eyes stopped looking over her shoulder. They started looking ahead. "I don't want to die here," she told him on the second night. "Then don't. You think it's that easy." "No," he said. "But if we're going out, I want them to remember who gave them hell." A silence fell between them, not heavy this time, but fierce. Shared. That night, she wandered into the house after he'd gone to sleep. She lit a lamp low and opened the drawer again, the one with the badge. She turned the star in her hand, reading the worn letters, Texas Ranger. The edges were smoothed by time, the back dented where it had taken a bullet long ago. She stared at it for a long while, then set it down gently and covered it again. At dawn, Elias found her out by the fence, hammering a loose board into place. "You sleep." "Enough." "You scared?" "Yeah." "Good. Means you'll keep your head." Later, as the sun rose higher and the wind carried dust from the west, a rider appeared. This one wasn't a boy. He was tall, wide-shouldered, and bloodied from a fall. His eyes were hollow, his mouth red from dried panic. "They're close," he gasped. "I seen him with my own eyes. 10 men, armed, dragging someone behind their horses like a flag." "Who was it?" Ruth asked. "Don't know. Town girl, maybe." Braith tried to fight. They left him hanging from the courthouse rail. Elias looked away. "They said your name," the rider added, pointing at Elias. "Said they're coming to finish what you should have done years ago." Elias turned toward the barn, speaking without looking back. "Then let's make sure they regret it." Ruth followed him. They opened the old chest buried beneath the floorboards, rifles, pistols, boxes of ammunition packed in sawdust. Elias handed her a revolver and a bandolier. "You sure you want to be part of this?" he asked. "I ain't hiding behind a fence ever again." He nodded. As the dust on the horizon thickened and the distant sound of hooves echoed like drums of war, Elias stood tall in the center of the yard, rifle across his chest, eyes sharp. "She was digging for food behind my fence," he murmured. "Now she's standing beside me." Ruth loaded her weapon, lips pressed thin. "Let him come." They came at noon. 10 silhouettes on horseback, like carrion birds circling the dead. Dust swallowed their boots, their coats fluttering like the tattered flags of men long past mercy. The Bleeding Rock Boys. Their leader, a red-bearded man with a grin that stretched too wide, rode front and center, pistol resting easy in his hand. From the ridge, Elias peered through a rusted spyglass. "They brought hell with them," he muttered. Ruth lay flat beside him, her eyes scanning the canyon floor. "And we've got 6 bullets between us." 7, he corrected, patting his coat. "You counting yours or mine?" "Just enough to ruin their day." They had no allies coming. Sheriff Braith was gone. The town wouldn't raise a hand. Black Hollow Ranch stood alone, a dying patch of earth surrounded by bleached bones and broken trail markers. But Ruth wasn't running anymore. The gang approached slow, like they enjoyed the weight of fear. When they reached the lower gate, the red-bearded man called out. Elias Boon, come out and die like the legend you used to be. Elias stood on the porch, rifle across his arms. Ruth remained hidden in the rocks behind the barn. You talk too much, Briggs. Elias called back. You stole something of mine. She wasn't yours. She was running from a debt. Now I want her, and whatever you think you're protecting burned to the ground. Elias spat into the dirt. You always did mistake a woman's silence for permission. Briggs' grin twitched. Then we do it the hard way. With a whistle, the gang fanned out. Gunfire cracked. Elias ducked, firing once, clean and fast. A man on the left fell from his horse. Ruth took the cue. From her perch, she dropped another rider, with a shot to the chest. 2 down. They retreated behind the barn. Bullets peppered the walls like hail. Dust flew. The horses screamed. Elias reloaded, counting out each shell like it mattered. It did. They'll try to circle us, he said. Let them. We've got traps laid along the east fence. He smiled. Didn't think you were listening. I remember every word. Another rider charged the north end. A wire snapped. Tin cans clattered. Ruth spun and fired, missed. Elias stepped in, dropped the outlaw with a shot between the eyes. You all right? I'm not dead yet. Briggs shouted again, voice louder, closer. Come out, woman. I remember that scream. I'll carve it out of you slower this time. Ruth's hands clenched white around her weapon. Elias stepped closer. He wants you off balance. Don't give it to him. Her breath shook. He killed my husband. I know. Another outlaw flanked the house, torch in hand. Ruth moved like wind, silent, fast. She tackled him before the fire caught. They rolled in the dirt. He was bigger, meaner, but she was desperate. She drove her knee into his gut, grabbed the torch, and swung it back into his face. He screamed, clutching his head. She shot him point-blank in the chest. Elias reached her, helped her up. That's 3, she said. We're halfway. Smoke rose behind the ridge. A barn window shattered. Bullets slammed into the ground near their feet. They moved fast, behind the trough, then into the lean-to. Elias was bleeding from the shoulder, but still grinning. Remind me never to underestimate you again. Remind me to aim better next time. Hooves thundered from the west. Briggs rode in alone now, reckless, teeth bared. Elias, he shouted. You die now. Elias raised his rifle. Fired. Missed. Briggs shot back. The bullet tore into Elias's thigh. He dropped to one knee. Ruth screamed. Briggs rode straight at him, pistol raised. But Ruth was already moving. She ran across the yard, grabbed Elias's dropped weapon, and aimed. Steady now, breath slow. Eyes like fire. Briggs saw her too late. The rifle cracked once. His chest snapped backward. He hit the ground hard, the pistol spinning from his hand. Ruth didn't move for a full 10 seconds. Just watched him writhe in the dust, bleeding into the earth he thought he owned. She walked over slowly, calmly. Elias limped after her, breathing heavy. Briggs looked up, spitting blood. You were nothing. I was, she said. Then I met someone who taught me to shoot straight. She fired once more. Clean. Quiet. Elias put a hand on her shoulder. It's over. She nodded, but she didn't smile. Behind them, the ranch smoldered slightly at the edges. 2 bodies lay by the fence, 3 near the barn, 4 more across the field. Only Ruth and Elias stood. Alive. Changed. Not running anymore.